this heaven?
No. It's Iowa.
Hello and welcome to Flyover Takes. I'm Chris Wanless from Is This Heaven? I'm coming to you in the wake of a season-opening Green Bay Packers victory over the Chicago Bears. The Packers beat the Bears 10-3 in the kickoff game of the NFL's 100th season. It was not pretty, but, a win's a win. And the Packers now head back to Lambeau Field next week at 1-0. We got our first glimpse at the Matt LaFleur offense with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, and it was not great, save for a couple nice pass plays on the touchdown drive and some decent runs. Towards the end of the game, the offense looked very much like a work in progress, but that's kind of what we expected, wasn't it? Even Rodgers, who, it seemed like he was trying to tamp down the expectations for early in the year, but the defense, man, whoo boy, that defense. I mean, how long has it been since the Packers defense played like that? To hold a division opponent to 3 points on their turf, that was damn impressive. But we'll get into that more in depth later on. First up, let's get into 3 observations from Week 1. First observation. There's a clear pecking order at wide receiver for the moment. Out of the 64 offensive snaps that the Packers had last night, Davante Adams, wide receiver 1, played 62. Marquez Valdes-Scantling was at 42, Geronimo Allison 32, and then Trevor Davis with 19, and Jake Kumerow, 1 snap. Touchdown Jesus. 1 offensive snap last night. And that pretty much reads, like we thought it would through the preseason, just in terms of the snap distribution percentage. With that pecking order there, with Davante being the clear number 1, MVS and Geronimo kind of battling it out for that 2 and 3 spot, and then Davis and Kumerow, the other active wide receivers, kind of picking up the scraps. So clear pecking order there. Not that it's surprising, but you wonder how much more involved guys like Davis and Kumerow and even Alan Lazard, who played, I believe, double-digit special teams reps last night, how much those guys will get on the field going forward. The other notable thing on offense, Danny Vitale, the fullback, only played 11 offensive snaps last night. For as much attention as he got during the offseason, he was only out there 17% of the time. But the Packers were facing quite a lot of long yardage situations, so that probably tracks. You're not going to have your fullback on the field necessarily on 3rd and 12 all the time. But just interesting to point out, for as much of a weapon as everyone said he was going to be, really wasn't out there a whole lot in the season opener. Observation number 2. On defense, the snap counts. 5 guys played all 73 snaps on defense last night. And that was Adrian Amos, Jair Alexander, Tremont Williams, Blake Martinez, and Darnell Savage. The rookie safety was everywhere in this game. I mean, we'll get into that a little bit more in depth, but man, he was impressive. Preston and Zadarius Smith also played over 90% of the snaps. So that core of, 5 or 7 guys there was really effective in Week 1 when you look at how well that defense was able to play. And then you got a guy like Kevin King, who probably will factor into that group as well once he's back to 100%. Third observation, the Packers were outpossessed in the first quarter, 10 minutes and 19 seconds to 4 minutes and 41 seconds, and they gained all of 12 yards in that first quarter. But they were able to keep themselves in it. Now, there's an argument to be made that Chicago's offense was not good. But that speaks more to, I think, Green Bay's performance on defense. It was great all night, but that first quarter was huge for them being on the field as much as they were, and only surrendering 3 points when the offense was giving the Bears a pretty short field for a lot of that first quarter. Now it's time to go over what we liked and what we didn't from Week 1. Surprisingly, there wasn't a whole lot of player-specific stuff in the didn't like category, which was a refreshing change from the past handful of games we've seen this team play. There's quite a bit to like and be encouraged by, even in a pretty ugly game. So let's start with what I liked from last night. The defense. This is the most obvious positive to come from this game and any Packers game really in recent memory. It's been so long since we could say the defense won a game for the Green Bay Packers. First of all, let's give it up for Brian Gutekunst and his approach to free agency this past offseason, because the 3 guys he signed for this defense all factored in significantly. You had Zadarius Smith with a sack, Preston Smith with 1.5, including the game clincher, and then Adrian Amos with what should have been a game-clinching interception until they went ahead and just wasted 13 seconds and gave the ball right back. But that's a conversation for a different day. $155 million in contracts between those 3 guys, and they're already starting to show that they're worth it. Darnell Savage, the rookie, was all over the place, flying around, getting in on tackles, breaking up passes. The kid was just phenomenal. He looks like the real deal. Granted, I'll be the first to admit, sweeping statements after Week 1 usually not lies, but he really looks like he can be a player. You had Kenny Clark, just casually doing, Kenny Clark stuff, swimming over people and wrecking plays. Let's be honest. It's going to be a good while before the offense looks like a well-oiled machine, but if the defense can continue on this track, they can more than pick up the slack for as long as they need to. Next up, for what I liked, J.K. Scott. Give it up for the punter, people, the baby-faced assassin. 9 punts for nearly 48-yard average. A damn 63-yard bomb with 1:45 left when they needed to flip the field. I'm not saying J.K. Scott is the current leader in the clubhouse for team MVP, but he might be the leader in the clubhouse for team MVP. I'm just saying. Moving on. The Jimmy Graham red zone touchdown. When the Packers signed Jimmy Graham last year, that is exactly what they thought they were getting, and it never materialized. His size is such an advantage, and that touchdown illustrates why. Look, it's obvious he's in the twilight of his career. No offense to him, but he can't block a soul. So if the Packers want to just line him up in the slot or out wide and use him as a giant red zone target, I'm here for that. By all accounts, and maybe most importantly from the mouth of Matt LaFleur himself, they want Graham to be a very large piece of this offense, and maybe he will be as the season wears on. Maybe his presence will become much larger. But for now, if he's just going to post dudes up in the end zone and go up and get the ball, that is fine by me. Last thing that I liked about last night, stating the obvious here, a win over the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field. It does not get a whole lot better than that. It does not matter one bit how pretty the game was. And make no mistake, this game was ugly. But a win against a division opponent on the road is massive. Moving on, couple things I did not like, and they are both remnants of the Mike McCarthy era that bled over into week 1 of 2019. Number 1, running the play clock all the way down. I get it. There's a lot going on pre-snap in the NFL. There's a lot of information to process, and it can't be done in the blink of an eye. But when you're facing a team with a ferocious defensive front like the Bears have, you're not doing yourself any favors by running the play clock down to 1 and letting them jump the snap on you. And we saw it time after time last night. It was a chronic issue under Mike McCarthy, and I really, really hope it's not going to become a chronic issue under Matt LaFleur as well. That's just something that, Rodgers was asked about it in the offseason. He didn't think it was going to be that big of an issue. And, as this offense continues to kind of gel and come together, maybe the efficiency starts to pick up with regard to that play clock and getting things going on time. But, man, last night did not give you any sense that things have changed in that area from last season. Second thing, the third down sacks, man. Another remnant of last year, except for the Packers last year allowed 25 third down sacks. And in this game, they allowed 4. 20% of last year's total in week 1. Again, the offense is going to get a bit of a pass these first few weeks while they're ironing stuff out. But there were a lot of times in this game where if Rodgers didn't get the ball out of his hands right away, the play was dead because he didn't look completely comfortable with where to go with it. And 4 of 5 sacks last night came on third down. And you just can't have those types of stats if you're going to be a successful football team. That's going to do it for this edition of Fly Over Takes. Remember to keep it tuned to Is This Heaven for stories and game previews. If you really like what you're seeing, consider subscribing to the site or to this podcast so you're never out of the loop. As always, thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
That's the best one right there. That was the best one right there.